Hi, I'm Matt Asner,
And I'm Navah Asner.
and we're the founders of the Ed Asner Family Center. And this is your opportunity to get out there and walk because we're having a walk.
So get together with your grandmother and your relatives and join a team or found a team and, help us to continue supporting the special needs community.
Thank you very much. We'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Isabella Hoffman.
I'm Atticus Baldwin, and we're walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
Yes, we are.
We are walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
We're walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
Hi! Oh, hi! We're walking for the Ed Asner Family Center. I'm with it. Let's go! Come on!
Hi, I'm Ed Asner, and I want to thank you for walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Center at Home. I'm your host, Matt Asner, and you'll notice that I'm alone today, and it's a strange thing to be. It is, Nava's a little under the weather, nothing serious, but we thought it'd be best for her to stay home today and relax. And so I'm taking hosting duties today. I do want to say that if you have comments or questions, please let me know. Ask me questions, ask me anything. This is your opportunity to ask me anything. And I want you to give me a long leash today because I might screw up a couple of times because I've never done like this and this all at once. So you'll have to just bear with me, okay? We have a great show today, amazing show. Chelsea Darnell's coming on in a couple of minutes to talk about Hollywood, and there's all sorts of amazing things happening on Netflix, and HBO Max is now like a thing. So lots going on in the world of entertainment. And then we have Jill Escher from the National Council of Severe Autism and also Autism Society and all these other places. She's an amazing lady, and I want you to get to know her. And we're going to talk about a controversial new study that was done about autism prevalence. And then we have Dr. Gary, who's going to check in, and we're going to talk about the COVID situation. Which is seems to be always on everyone's mind these days. And that's a reality. There's a lot going on in this world right now, a lot of crazy things. And I'm sure you all are watching the news. It's there's a lot to be worried about. So how are you dealing with that? You guys hanging in there? I know in our household, it's a tad nervous. There's some nail biting in our household. I have a son. We have a son who's 19. I think he's 19. Forgive me, Jake. I think he's 19. He might be 20. He's 20. He's 20. Oh my God. So he's a news guy. So he goes out and as a stringer for the news every night, and so we'll be lounging around in the evening, kind of trying to relax by the end of the evening, and we'll see on Instagram he's reporting something. The other night he was downtown when all the stuff was happening downtown. It's terrifying, and you get nervous about it. But that's certainly one of the ways that I'm keeping up with this stuff because he's in the middle of it. We're starting to have a little bit of relaxation of restrictions, and that'll be interesting to see where that leads. I'm not really sure. Hopefully we'll continue down this road, and all of this will be a distant memory that we'll all kind of hopefully forget someday. Well, we'll never forget it, but it's one of those things. But we're seeing a lifting of restrictions all over the place, and I think. How do you guys feel about that? What are your thoughts on that? I'm going to bring our first guest in. It's Chelsea Darnell, and we're going to talk a little bit about what she's watching. Chelsea, what's going on?
Hi. So I'm doing well. Think it's been a couple weeks since I talked to you guys.
Well, first of all, wait a minute. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Did you do anything special on your birthday?
Yeah, I actually had like a couple of friends at a safe distance over at a time, little increments. It was really nice. It was a very nice birthday.
Awesome. And so lots going on in the world of entertainment. Let's talk about that. What do you want to talk about today? Anything you want to highlight?
Honestly, I'm open to anything that you find interesting or that I just know. They just released HBO Max. That's the new streaming service that was just released yesterday.
Yep. Have you looked at it?
Not yet. I haven't created an account.
Okay, so I looked at it yesterday, and we kind of I kind of went through all the stuff that's in there. I think the most impressive thing that's involved with HBO Max is you've got the whole Studio Ghibli library going on. So you've got like Totoro and what's the other one? Ponyo and
that's interesting because those were all distributed by Disney. So I'm curious.
Isn't that interesting? You're right. That's true.
That one doesn't really make sense to me because all of the property on HBO Max, that's probably all owned by Warner Brothers because they own HBO. And all of the Studio Ghibli movies over the years, like when they're released here in the States, Disney always distributes them. So I find it weird that that's on HBO Max.
I have no answer other than licensing.
Great.
But that's like it, pretty much for HBO Max. You've got like the standard fare. You've got the HBO stuff, The Watchmen and Band of Brothers and all that stuff, Game of Thrones, stuff that you'd expect to see on HBO. Then you've got like Friends. I think all the Warner Brothers library that's going to be presented there. So Friends is on there. That's why I guess they took it off Netflix a little while ago. Mm-hmm. And are you a Friends fan?
Honestly, I don't really watch the show because Ross is a lot for me to deal with. I can't.
Ross is a lot for you to deal with. It's too much for you, right?
Too much for me. I've like the clips I've watched. I'm like, oh my god, I don't know if I could sit through the show. Honestly, I know I have a lot of friends. Love that show. It's their favorite show of all time. I'm like, it's fine.
But you're just not a Schwimmer fan.
I like the actor. I just don't like that character.
Okay, that's fair. I think I have that about some shows that I watch, but I don't. I think everyone on Friends, it's just kind of innocuous and that show, I missed it for me. I didn't really get that show, but I know a lot of people who are really into it. So let's talk about. Every week, Chelsea hosts a movie night for us. It's every Saturday night at 7:00, and they've done Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think you did Star Wars. Did you do Star Wars or Star Wars this week?
Tomorrow. That's the one we'll be discussing. We're going to be discussing Star Wars: A New Hope. So the one that started it all. So Star Wars Episode 4. I know it's weird. It's at Episode 4.
That movie is very dear to my heart. I have vivid memories of this. I was 13 years old, and I literally stayed in line to watch that film every day for that summer. So I must have seen, not every day, but I would go to the theater like at 10 in the morning, go to the first show, and I would spend at least a day a week at the theater, just sitting in the theater watching that over and over and over again, over and over and over again. And I would just sit there and watch it, and I had it memorized, and that was it. That was Star Wars for me. Are you that much of a fan or no?
I can't really call myself I don't know what the name is for Star Wars fans.
I just lost I just lost your audio, Chelsea. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Well, if you guys can hear Chelsea out there, let me know. You can hear Chelsea. Okay. So it's just me. All right. So I'm just going to carry on like I can hear everyone. And we'll do that. But I can't hear you, Chelsea. So that's a problem. So hold on. I'm going to actually switch speakers. Hang on. This is technical difficulties here. And let's, can you talk to me?
Yep. What's up?
Oh, there we go. Let's get rid of these AirPods. I think I handled that really well. No panic. That was good. That was good, wasn't it? No panic at all. So Chelsea, so how do people log in Saturday night?
So
Discussion.
So first of all, you can email Shelby at edasnerfamilycenter.org to RSVP. We actually have a permanent password now. So
we won't give it out here.
We won't give it out here, but it's gonna, if you are interested, we have a password that's gonna be the permanent one we use every week. That'll be obviously for the only disclosed for guests and stuff and whatnot, not on here.
For club members.
Yeah. And yeah, for club members and for new members, we have our regulars and if any new members want to join, it's for them too. So yeah.
Well, excellent. So explain what happened. So you watched the film. So you watched the film on like today. You watched Star Wars today, or if you've seen it, you're one up in the game.
Yeah,
and
anytime, as long as you watch it anytime before 7:00 tomorrow.
And then you guys get on the phone and kind of discuss, what's going on with Luke and Han Solo.
We all go on Zoom. We're going to discuss the movie, what we liked, what we thought was interesting.
And so how many times have you seen Star Wars though? You've seen it a lot.
Well,
right?
actually, this particular, like the very first Star Wars, I've seen some of it, but only once, and I never got around to finishing it. So this will technically be my first time watching it, and definitely my first time watching it in full.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a great movie. You'll enjoy it. It's a little silly in places, but it's well worth it to invest yourself.
What I saw, I kind of liked how simple it was, because I feel like as the movies go on, they get a lot more complicated. And the first movie, actually, it's like a really simple plot. Kind of reminds me of like the story of Moses.
Well, there's your archetype right there.
Right.
Exactly. Well, so if they want to do that, they can find the link on our Facebook page, and it's at 7:00 tomorrow night, Pacific time.
7:00 Pacific Standard Time, every Saturday. So tomorrow, 7 PST.
Okay, and so if you join Chelsea on the movie chat. So before we leave, Navah and I were watching an Apple TV show called Defending Jacob. Have you heard about that?
I've heard about it. I don't really know what it's about.
Well, we enjoyed parts of it, but it ended last night. Last night was the last episode, and it was really, honestly, one of the most mind-numbingly depressing endings I think I've ever seen on a television show. It was really profoundly depressing, and I don't recommend anyone rushing out to see it. I mean, really good performances, but really tough to watch. Really tough to watch. So be careful with that one, guys. Be careful with that one.
Yeah, it looked depressing from the trailer, so I was like, I'm gonna avoid that one.
Some good turns, some good twists and turns, and great performances, but boy, it's tough to watch. Well, Chelsea, I want to thank you, and we will see you tomorrow night for movie chat.
You bet.
And we'll see you next week. Okay. All right. Once again, happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. That was Chelsea Darnell. So yeah, check it out, the movie chat. She's there every Saturday night at 7:00 for the Ed Asner Family Center. I don't know if you guys have checked out our stuff yet, but we have literally something on every day. So we have On Mondays, we have Music with Judy. On Tuesdays, we have Krissa and Navah with the mental health check-in. On Wednesdays, we have Aviva doing character drawing. On Thursdays, we have physical fitness with Liz. On Friday, we have Corona Kitchen with Shelby, and what we're doing right now, Center at Home. On Saturday, we have Arts and Crafts with Aviva. And on Sunday, not sure when we're doing this. I think we're going to do one for Father's Day. We have Story Time with Ed. So that's all coming to you free. And all you have to do is log on to Facebook or YouTube, and we'll be there. And that's where we are. And we archive everything so you can take a look at it. And yoga. Shauna, how could I forget you? Yoga on Sunday. That's at noon on Sunday with Shauna. You can find all of the links to that on our Facebook page. You can also find our stuff on YouTube and on Twitter. So I'm going to bring on our next guest. She's an amazing person who has been a friend of mine for quite a while. And I'm just going to read her bio because it's absolutely incredible. Jill Escher is president of the National Council of Severe Autism, immediate past president of Autism Society, San Francisco Bay Area, where I've worked with her, an autism research philanthropist, Escher Fund for Autism, a housing provider to adults with developmental disabilities, Claradon Properties, LLC, and the mother of 2 children with nonverbal forms of autism. And we actually were in Hawaii at the same time, so we went swimming together. A young man aged 21 and a teenager aged 14. She's really an incredible person, and I'm really proud. Navah and I are both proud to call her friend. And here is Jill Escher. Jill, how are you?
Hey, Matt. Great to see you. You know, I feel like you've come full circle. So I feel like I was first introduced to you when you were doing like the first autism podcast in the world.
Oh,
from LA. Right. And you were doing it with that other guy. I don't remember.
With Nick.
Yeah.
With
what
Nick.
was that called?
It was called Autism America.
Ah, yeah.
That's right. We were on terrestrial radio, on AM radio, and then we went to XM satellite. And then we did it for about 2 years, I think.
Yeah, those were great. I was listening to that. I thought, that guy knows his stuff. That guy's great. Yeah. So that's how I first kind of got to know you.
That's right. And then I went to Autism Speaks, and we kind of certainly had interaction there. And then Autism Society, and now here we are right now.
I know, you know, the autism land, it never lets you far from its grip. It's always pulling us in, no matter what.
You know, it has that funny way about it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The last time I saw you, we were in Hawaii together. And
I know, that was funny.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. So you know, you're doing some incredible things. So let's first talk about the National Council for Severe Autism, on severe autism.
Sure.
I always say that severe autistics have probably the most stacked deck against them. I mean, it's really a very difficult place to be. The parents have a tough time, and certainly the kids and adults that have severe autism have a very difficult time. It's because a lot of them really can't speak, can they? And
or have very significant impairments in their ability to communicate. Yes. Yeah.
So let's first I want to ask you, you know, what prompted you to start the National Council for Severe Autism? Is it
right? Yeah, we'll call it NCSA for short, but NCSA. So NCSA is really a new organization, and it launched in January of last year. So we're less than a year and a half old, and really it grew out of a frustration, frankly, that there was a void in the advocacy and kind of communications world about individuals and families affected by severe autism. autism message, was really kind of moving towards the more Asperger's end, and the stories that were being told and the policies that were being made were about those who were higher functioning. In my view, every form of autism is serious. Every form of autism deserves a lot of attention and a lot of, whatever it takes, programming, accommodations, therapies, whatever. I mean, across the board, I'm interested in seeing all autisms addressed. So I'm not at all in forming the NCSA. We had no intention to diminish, right, people on one end of the spectrum. But we did think that those who are suffering very severe cognitive and functional impairments deserved some emphasis of their own, if that makes sense.
And let's be fair, they don't have the ability to speak out for themselves.
They can't do it themselves. So if we don't speak out for them, nobody's speaking out for them, right? And my kids who have autism are on the severe end. My son is more severe than my daughter, but neither of them have ability to communicate or to think abstractly or to function beyond a very, very basic level. So they're going to need 24/7 care for the rest of their lives, unfortunately. So there were sort of a whole bunch of us who were growing just more and more frustrated with the advocacy landscape, and we just felt we wanted to add this voice in. We didn't want to supplant other voices, in no way, shape, or form, but we wanted to make sure that this was also at the table. This group was also represented. It was really that simple. There was no, loftier goal than that, basically. But, what do they say? If you don't have a seat at the table, you'll be served at the table.
Yes.
Something like that. So the whole idea was, okay, you have a seat at the table, so you're not served at the table, so you don't lose what's important to you. And what's important to you might be very different from what's important to somebody who is a self-advocate and who is independent and has, a very different form of autism. As I said, it was a very straightforward mission.
Would you say that, let's take the last 10 years. Let's take the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Would you say that autism and autism awareness, specifically autism awareness about the more severe forms of autism, do you feel that we've come a long way in that world?
That there's more awareness of the more severe forms?
Yes.
I felt that we were backtracking.
Okay.
That that the world was thinking of autism as something that was relatively innocuous, and that was sort of a charming difference rather than a very serious neurodevelopmental pathology. Right. So an autism can be, as it's defined now, it can be a charming difference, and that's wonderful when it is. But for a lot of people, it's not that at all. It's a significantly impaired. So we felt that we never saw those people. We didn't see those people on TV. They were seldom in the newspapers. Even our advocacy groups like Autism Speaks, Autism Society of America, tended to feature or focus, those who were verbal and cognitively able. So no, I felt that the world was kind of backtracking.
And so interestingly, that's actually really interesting because you do see a lot more autistics on television these days. I mean, they're much more than the past. However, the more severe forms of autism are really underrepresented on television, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of called it the good doctor syndrome. Who doesn't want a feel-good story like The Good Doctor? Not that I've watched it, I haven't. But, no one's going to want to watch, a story about like my son. Nobody wants to see that. That's hard. That's hard and that's sad. And there's not a happy ending. Johnny isn't a doctor who can save people's lives. Johnny is somebody who spends his day stimming on sticks.
Yeah.
That's not going to make for a good sitcom. That's just not. But nevertheless, it's a reality that ended up getting somewhat hidden. So anyway, now that we're about a year and a half in, we have just a really strong base of supporters. We've successfully got our message in several media avenues and have voiced our opinion on several legislative matters. So,
You're on Center at Home.
Hmm?
You're on Center at Home. You're on our show right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Most
Got to
important.
include that.
Yeah, this is like the pinnacle.
Exactly. So let me ask you something, because I read an article the other day, and that's actually what prompted me to want you to come on, among other reasons. But there's a great article written by you on your website. And it's basically, I'm just going to paraphrase here. A major new review with a stamp of approval from Autism Speaks denies any increase in autism. The autism community should be aghast at the incompetence. Basically, the title of the article is "Autism Researchers Just Threw You Under the Bus."
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this. So basically, paraphrasing what they stated in this report was that no, there's no real uptick of autism. It's all what is it?
Ascertainment, right? The differential diagnostics, broadening criteria. I didn't mince words in this piece. I tend not to mince words really in anything that I do. I tend to be pretty straightforward.
I can attest to that. You definitely speak your mind.
Yeah, and life is short, so you might as well say your own truth. So yeah, I didn't mince words in this. And here's the thing. I think the first time I think we met Matt, we had a conversation about these increasing rates of autism, right? And I remember even back then, and that was a long time ago, that was like, voicing my frustration with how trivialized, right, this fact was. Here we saw it just ever increasing every year, more and more, higher rates, and no one was talking about it, right? It was like everyone was kind of shrugging their shoulders, like, oh, we must be, just noticing it now. We didn't notice it in decades past or whatever. But that's complete malarkey, because there is overwhelming evidence around the world, overwhelming evidence of extremely sharp increases in autism as a patent neurodevelopmental disability, not as a difference, but as a disability, wherever you look. If you look at data from Japan, data from Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, Australia, Canada, of course, the US, Israel, all of those countries have incredibly strong data showing how much autism has increased. And you can see, although people say like, oh, well, gosh, we don't know what's causing it, therefore, it must be better ascertainment. There really is no proof at all that this is better ascertainment, except with respect to some in the higher functioning realm. There's some of that, but it can't possibly explain the fact that autism in California has grown 40-fold.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because you've done a lot of research on California.
Yeah, that's the data I know the best, because here we are in California.
Exactly. So let's use California as an example. So tell me, let's take can we do 10 years or 20 years? Let's do 20 years.
Okay, I don't have it all memorized in my head, but I'll do my best. Okay,
I won't hold you to any of it. Just take me through that picture though, on what on
okay. I'll throw out some numbers that are pretty clear. All right, so in California we have something called the Department of Developmental Services, and DDS has been authorized under something called the Lanterman Act. I won't get into the details, but unlike other of our 50 states, California, for many decades, has had a very solid developmental disability program, where not only people went to go access services, but our regional centers that serve people with developmental disabilities had the mandate to case find, right? They had to go out and actually find cases of these people who needed community supports of one sort or another. Now, they have been keeping track of intellectual disability, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism for decades. And their data is very good. It is known to be the best autism data in the country. It's not perfect data. It is not. It only addresses those on the more severe end of the spectrum, those with developmental disability type of autism. And it doesn't even capture all of that, but it does a very good job. It's thought to capture at least 75%. So it's really, really good data. Okay, let's start here. In about early 1980s, there were maybe 3,000 cases of DDS autism in our state. Okay,
in California, 3,000 cases.
California. So like when we were graduating from high school, there were about 3,000 cases of autism in our state in the DDS system. Okay, how many are there now? That's a guess. Take a guess.
You want me to guess?
Yeah.
Oh no, don't have me guess. 50,000.
126,000.
See, that's incredible.
Okay, we went from 3,000 to 126,000 in 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a massive increase, and we're only talking about serious neurodevelopmental disability. We're not talking about professors.
And let's do the math there. Let's do the math there. You would have to have an incredible uptick of incidents for that to be accounted for. That could not just be because you couldn't hire that many people to look for that kind of.
No, it's an incredible uptick and people have looked at the California data. It's not like everybody's ignoring it. People have at different times looked at the data to see like, why is this happening? Because at first I remember in the early 90s, the California legislature is like, what is going on here? We have 16,000 cases of autism and we have no idea why, right? Yeah. And at that time, 16,000 cases of autism was mind-blowing, totally unprecedented. So they had somebody go back and try to figure out, well, what's happening? They couldn't find any evidence that it was caused by diagnostic substitution, immigration to the state, expansion of eligibility. None of that. So it was completely unexplained. Well, here we are now at 126,000, and other efforts to look at the data, they can't find any explanation. So, to me, there is things, we don't know what, going on. Even if you allow for the fact that maybe some people who were diagnosed with intellectual disability are not diagnosed with autism, okay, even if you allow for that, most of it's unexplained. So anyway, we don't know what's causing this. Obviously I work on different hypotheses, but it's a very, very serious issue. And there's abundant evidence that we have a real increase in autism. So back to your point, like, why did you want to talk to me? I wrote about this paper that denied any increase in autism. And of course, my jaw drops to the floor. Watch my jaw dropping to the floor. Like, what? How could you dare say that when there's so much evidence to the contrary? And so what I did is I wrote an article basically picking apart this report and explaining why it was so irresponsible and so wrong, so sloppily done. And and to me, the most disappointing thing was Autism Speaks signed off on it. So
I'm going to put the link on the lower third here. I'm kind of dumbfounded by why they would come out with in support of this.
I think they didn't. I think they probably didn't notice. Like that, they have a chief science officer who's spinning 100 plates, right?
Right.
And nicest guy, by the way. I really, really like him. So he's spinning 100 plates, and there's this major, Tom, right? Tom Fraser, great guy. So he's spinning 100 plates. This review comes out, and he's like, "Okay, I'm sure he said, didn't take a close look." The problem is this review is in the most influential scientific publication, and it will be used as authority, right, for the propositions set forth in it. So it will be used for the proposition that we have not experienced a true increase in autism, when in fact it did not offer a single iota of evidence for that. Not a single iota of evidence.
So it has the possibility of setting us back a little bit in terms of autism.
I think it would, and that's what upset me. Autism Speaks can throw 100 walks, right? And Not that you would know anything about that, but
No,
Autism Speaks.
I know a little bit about it. I know a little bit about it.
100 walks, to raise awareness and raise money. Well, none of that matters, if the world is being told this fiction that we don't really have a problem. This has always been here. We just didn't notice it. We don't really have a problem, right? It's so counterproductive. It boggled my mind. And so I'm not. Tom's a great guy. I just think this was sloppy on his part. He didn't read it carefully. But nevertheless, Autism Speaks is a signatory, right, to this paper. And I think it would not be very difficult for Autism Speaks to write to the journal and say, you know what, we think that this particular part, not all of it, but this particular part of the paper should be retracted. It's too misleading. It's too sloppy and misleading.
Well,
and we in
Jill,
the autism community should not tolerate that. We just shouldn't.
Well,
there's no reason for us.
Have you reached out? Have you reached out to them? Have they?
I wrote to Tom. I'd have to write back to him. He'll probably be mad at me at this point, but whatever. And just say, listen, I think that you have the moral duty, to ask for a retraction of this paragraph. I really do, and maybe I should. We've been in touch before about this. He's busy. I don't know. It might not be on his top 10 list.
Well, I think you got to keep talking about it. I think it's important. We're going to talk about it. I think the whole thing kind of just seems very strange to me that they would kind of rubber stamp that. So I think it's important to really mention it as much as possible. I got to say, this has been just a crazy, weird week of stories about autism in the news. Lots of crazy moms and dads and.
Oh my God, a horrible week. Yes.
And it's like, I'm not even going to mention it really. I just, how does that make you feel? Does it infuriates me and it's just awful.
Let's just get to the point. There were 2 stories this week of parents basically tossing out their autistic kids, right? One through murder.
Different levels of that. Yes.
Yeah. And one through, rehoming was the term. Okay, I've never heard that.
Yes, you could. That's putting it nicely, I think.
Putting it nicely, yeah, rehoming, and both of those, of course, are very disturbing. Here's the thing. I'm a super practical person, right? I tend to just want to do whatever ends up best and easiest, and in my experience, I will say, autism parents are overwhelmingly devoted, right, to their children and really work very hard to do the best by their kids. Like 99% of the time I see that, right?
I agree.
Now, there are times, I'm not saying this is the case with these families. I don't know the particulars with these families, but there are times when parents hit their edge.
Endpoint.
Yeah.
Their edge. Yes.
Yeah. They break. Right? Their breaking point, if you will. I've also seen that. When that happens, and again, I'm not saying that happened in these cases because I don't know, right? But when that happens, what's important to me is that there's an alternative for the child.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know what that is. I think it's hard to say. Does it mean, taking the child to the police department, taking the child to an emergency room, taking the child to the developmental services office, in that county? Does it mean, calling a hotline? Like, I don't know what that is. But, obviously killing should never be an alternative, obviously.
Yeah, no.
And, the rehoming, maybe she needed a cooling off period or something. I don't know, but I
think with look, one was just tragic and awful in every way, and the other one, was so public that I think it was just it was horrible itself, but it was because it was so public, and she had raised money for health stuff and everything, and I don't know, it just kind of left a sour taste in people's mouths, I think. And I think I agree with you. I think that
I had never heard of her. I had no idea who she was or who the kid was, and it was all news.
Well, we live in a very strange world, Jill, where social media, celebrity is like king, and
Okay.
I guess they have a lot of influence, and I guess that's where they get their fame. But
I guess.
you know, I think that my feeling is, you know, when I was in Korea, I visited a hospital. There was a very interesting hospital, and there was it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something, and I visited at a time where it was you know, kind of this safe drop off policy. And so a lot, you know, it was just around the time where kids, you know, would be dropped off if people were dropping kids off, and you know, families could drop off kids that they couldn't handle or they couldn't take. You know, I just thought it was very humane. There's a part of it that's just horrifying to you, but at the same time, I was impressed by the fact that they were caring for these children, and they were finding them homes, and there was a way out for these kids.
Yeah.
And for the parents if they needed it. If they needed it. It's just a shame that these parents chose such a public way of displaying their complete.
Yeah, that sounds like it. That's bizarre. I mean, I haven't watched any of it. I haven't seen it, but that is bizarre, and it sends a horrible message. I mean,
it does.
Awful. Yeah. Awful.
Well, on a totally different note, I know you as a mom, and you're an incredible mom, and you think about not only your children's future, but pretty much all children's future, because if you're helping other families, you're helping the world, and you certainly do that. You tell before we leave, tell me a little bit about your property LLC. And what you're doing with that.
Well, okay. So yeah, as you know, I have 2 kids with autism. As I became more active in my community, it became very clear to me that there were very few housing options for kids as they aged out of school into adulthood. And you know, I know, you know, everybody in the agencies here and in the regional centers here, and it was obviously a crisis. So I got to the point where I needed to kind of change careers. I was a lawyer, right? I was a lawyer, and I'm like, okay, well, it's time to do something else. And so, having no background in real estate whatsoever, I thought, you know what? I'm going to see what I can do to create housing for low-income, you know, people with autism and developmental disabilities. I mean, it was a lark. It wasn't something that I had prepared myself for. It was just like an idea. And I bought a building in Santa Cruz. My husband and I, it's a 12-plex. It was a former motel right near the boardwalk. Have you ever been to the Santa Cruz boardwalk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Long time ago.
You probably saw the building then.
Okay.
It was an old motel that was converted into low-income apartments. And what I've been able to do over the years is rent out units as they become available to adults with autism. And so I think out of the 12-plex, 7 of them now are rented to adults. And again, they're fairly high functioning because these are very small units. You can't have live-in staff. Mm-hmm. So I have 7 high functioning adults in that property. And I was able to acquire a few other properties that are a little bit larger and are able to serve people with higher needs. So people who have 1 or 2 live-in staff.
Yeah.
So it's basically like being an affordable housing provider. It's not that different, except that I make efforts to find tenants who have ASD or similar challenges. And you know, the issue with housing, I think, as you guys know, is it's impossible. It's so expensive. It's so hard. It's so hard to do. And what I'm doing is a drop in the bucket. And what I'd like to do is find ways to replicate, you know, the work I do in a financially sustainable way, so other people can do it.
And we have a long way to go there. I mean,
oh my God.
There's just not there's not even a close to a solution to this at all. This is something that everyone needs to pay attention to.
It's gigantic gigantic crisis, gigantic. And, you know, you can see the age as we go up and 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 up, in terms of the population, right? It's just going to get harder every year.
Your math works there too, by the way. I mean, let's look at that math. You know, you said that, you know, 30 years ago, 3,000 kids in California were being treated for developmental disabilities.
Right.
We're getting services from the state. Now it's 126. I think you said 126,000.
126,000. Yeah.
So those kids are going to grow up and become adults, and they're going to need services, and they're going to need places to live, and they're going to need help. And boy, that's a big, bad situation that's going to happen there.
Yeah, so, and we are not talking about it. Really, there's been almost no serious public discussion about what we're going to do. I'm telling you.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, and this is something that I've thought about a lot, and it's terrified me. We live in a state that's out of control in terms of real estate prices, and you know, where do you go with that? You know, really, I mean, seriously, where do you go with that? It becomes so unbelievably difficult to sustain anything that means anything. You know,
we need to invent new policies. Basically, we have to invent new financial and legal vehicles and funding streams specifically for this population. Because what happens is they say, well, you know, we're creating some low-income housing, right, in such and such city. Well, low-income housing addresses 500 different types of people, right? And our people tend not to, you know, get on those lists. It's a long story. You need to carve out something for our most severely disabled. You really do. Otherwise, they have no chance. And we aren't even close to that yet. And now, of course, our state is in a financial tailspin. You know, because of Corona, and you know, we went from surplus to trouble. I mean, overnight. It's and now, you know, just DDS, it has to make all kinds of cuts.
Yeah.
So, we need to work on it. You know, we'll work on it till we're in our graves, I'm afraid.
Yes. Well, we've got all sorts of stuff that we need to work on, and you know what? Without people like you, we'd be in a lot of trouble. So I appreciate you. And I thank you for your hard work, Jill, and your dedication to our kids and our adults living with autism and the parents. And I thank you. You're one of my favorite people.
Oh, thank you, Matt. I really, really admire what you're doing. I hope that you guys can reopen your physical space.
We will.
Yeah.
We will. It's going to happen. Probably, you know, we've got some stuff to do, but looking at maybe July. So we'll see what happens. So.
All right. Well, pleasure to see you, or sort of see you and talk to you, Matt.
Good to talk to you. And by the way, if anyone wants to check out Jill's website or her foundation's website, it's on the screen right now, and you can go to the web and check that out. She's a great writer. She writes these wonderful articles that, you know, probably a couple a week, right?
Unfortunately. Well, yeah, for better or worse. I can't keep my mouth shut.
And I always enjoy when a new one comes out. So, you know, enjoy it and go check out the website. It's, and Jill, I thank you. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon. See you in Hawaii.
Yeah, I hope.
All right. Thank you. That was Jill Escher. So amazing lady. And boy, can you believe all the information that you just got? So check out the website. Once again, it is, where is it? It's this right here, www.ncsaautism.org. And Claudia, you're very welcome. Thank you for watching. I'm going to just quickly, we don't have a lot of time here, but I'm going to bring Gary Bilodeau in, Dr. Gary in, to say hi. How are you, Gary?
All right. How are you guys?
We're doing okay. We're doing okay here. I think we're you know, one day at a time, right?
I think you're short your other half.
Well, I am. It's that obvious, isn't it? I got to be honest with you. I miss her terribly.
Yeah,
I really do.
I bet.
Yeah, I felt like I couldn't breathe here. I was like, I had to keep going.
Yeah.
So I like your mask.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Isn't that's a nice mask, isn't it, everyone?
We-
So Gary, how is it over there? Look at the beautiful clouds behind you.
Yeah, it's a little overcast, but it's warm. At least it's 70 today, so we're not freezing.
Well, so are you still seeing a lot of people come to the clinic?
Yeah, we have so far today, we're at 32.
Uh-huh.
A lot, still seeing more flu again. We've ran
Really?
probably 5 corona tests today. We still haven't had any new positive in this county, which is nice. So we're holding our own as far as that point, but the flu's on the rise. For some reason, summer flu, I guess, is starting to come in.
Well, God forbid.
Yeah.
So, well, it's interesting because I've been checking the numbers here in LA and California, and I guess LA County reported that they had 2,000 new cases yesterday, 2,000 new cases on Monday. I think, there's like 600 or 700 plus new cases today. So, I don't know if that's a test backlog. I'm not sure what's going on there, but
Well,
it's
I think you and I talked about that. I'm wondering, and I'm starting to look. I'm going to start checking with some friends that I have in Seattle, whether it's that viral load we talked about. Is it because it's a higher concentration? You have somebody that's really sick, spreading it to those people, so they're getting in those tight quarters. Some of those places where you've seen them release kind of parts of quarantine, and they've been really high packed. If you have somebody with that high viral load, are they shedding it a lot more? Whereas again, here in this county, maybe why we haven't seen it is we haven't had somebody with a huge viral load. Maybe they do have it, but it's so little we're not transmitting it like you are in those big populations.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. So restrictions have been lifted pretty much everywhere,
Right.
except for maybe a few places. New York, I think, is still under some sort of quarantine situation, but pretty much everywhere restrictions are being lifted. You've seen like the crazy stuff going on at Lake of the Ozarks and the beaches all over the place. Memorial Day weekend was kind of a nutcase job.
Right.
People were really irresponsible. So
Correct.
We really run the risk of getting too relaxed, don't we?
Yes, and I think that's what I was telling people here. People that come in, we're talking about complacency. So again, viral load, I'm going to go back to that. It's everything. So if you drop somebody in the center with, let's say, a 4,000 viral load count, they're going to shed it to everybody around them. Whereas if you only have somebody that has a 50, I'm just using numbers, a 50,
Sure.
They're not going to spread that to everybody in that same high quality. I think that's why when we talked about it before, you saw that in some of the nursing homes. You have somebody that's so sick, they're really able to spread it right there to their neighbors that are in that same center. I think that can happen in these big groups, and you won't know it because you don't know if that one person is really carrying the virus, how much they're going to spread it to those people right there around them, and then those people are going to start spreading it out. So it's a ripple.
Gary,
it's that ripple effect.
Gary, I know what the answer is going to be. What's the best way to not let that happen?
Well, still, it's good precautions. I mean, social distancing. We're still doing all the masks. We're still keeping everybody outside coming through urgent care. So we're not letting anybody in the urgent care into the building because those are your highest contaminants. Now, they're still doing some primary care on the other end of the building now, where you can bring one person in, you wait an appropriate amount of time, clean the room, let it sit, Clorox that down. So your social distancing, your good cleaning, your good hand washing, everything you can do as far as the distancing part of it's going to keep you from getting it. I mean, that's ultimately, if you're not coughed on, you're not going to get it.
And, I mean, it's interesting because I talked to someone at a very big social media corporation yesterday, and they said that they're out of the office, and one of the big ones. We're actually streaming on it right now, but they said that they're not going to be back in the office until after the new year.
Right. Yeah.
So I think a lot of corporations.
That's just that risk of contaminant. I mean, the closer you are, the easier you're going to spread it. And again, if you have that high carryability, you're going to transmit it to more people that are right around you. And we just don't know. I don't think the testing is good enough. They're showing a lot of these tests are not as accurate as they think they are. So maybe we're missing some. I think that still needs to be improved. And again, like we say every week, it's the vaccine and the treatment. They need to be in place before you can kind of relax and say, we're going to be better.
So everyone needs to be cautious.
Correct.
It's not over. It's not over.
Correct.
We're still moving forward. We're, and this is a new world. No one knows what this is. This is
right.
It's all unknown. It's all a big question mark that we've
I
got
think
to
it's
all
just-
get our heads around.
I think it's just going to change a lot of things. I think you're going to see a lot of things done differently everywhere, from movie theaters to the theme parks down there to restaurants and businesses. Our clinic, how we're going to be doing right now, we're trying to set it up where we'll do one inpatient where somebody will come in. Then you'll have that break where everything's cleaned down. You'll do telemedicine for 2 other patients, and then switch back and forth.
Well, it's interesting. I think they're talking about, the possibility of reopening theaters now. And
Right.
I have no idea how they can do that.
Yeah.
I would understand like a drive-in that
Right.
could happen.
Right.
And
that's the
it's
same thing with-
interesting to me that you're going to see a resurgence of drive-ins. But
Right.
but I think
that's the thing. How are you going to do that? Like my son, Chandler. I mean, he's at Disneyland, and they talk about that. I mean, how are you going to do that logistically?
yeah, it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
But
it's going to be tough.
But well, it'll be interesting to watch everyone kind of go through this, and it's every day there's something new that comes out. I wish you the best always, Gary. We love you, and Navah and I both love you, and we wish you the best. Keep doing the great work you're doing. Keep fighting the good battle, and we'll talk to you maybe next week.
All right. Thanks for all your
Okay.
help. Love you guys too.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay. Bye. Well, that was Dr. Gary checking in about COVID, the situation with COVID. I think I say everyone just stay safe out there, wear your masks, and wash your hands, and socially distance. Well, that's our show for today. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for giving me the time to speak to you. And I want to thank Jill Escher for coming on. That was just mind-blowing, all the information she gave us. I want to thank Chelsea Darnell and say happy birthday again. And most of all, I want to thank my wife, Navah Asner, who I love. And I'm sorry that I'm here doing this show, and I'm sorry that I'm not taking care of you right now. But you are the best, and I love you. And that's the truth. And we'll be back here next week with Navah. And until next week, I say thanks for watching, and we will keep your seatbelt fastened. Okay? Here we go. Hi, I'm Matt Asner.
And I'm Navah Asner.
And we're the founders of the Ed Asner Family Center. And this is your opportunity to get out there and walk, because we're having a walk.
So get together with your grandmother and your relatives and join a team or found a team and, help us to continue supporting the special needs community.
Thank you very much. We'll see you there.
Hi, I'm Isabella Hoffman.
I'm Atticus Baldwin, and we're walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
Yes, we are.
We are walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
We're walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.
Hi. Oh, hi. We're walking for the Ed Asner Family Center. I'm with it. Let's go. Come on.
Hi, I'm Ed Asner, and I want to thank you for walking for the Ed Asner Family Center.